for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and paint some strokes over the body so that we can see how that's done, and go ahead and export these from ZBrush and put them back into our 3D package so that we can proceed from there. So the first thing that we're going to do is make sure that we have the correct sub-object selected, and since I want to pick up some of the tonal qualities of the paint that I've already put on the facial, I'm going to go ahead and also turn on my eye icon, which allows visibility of that subtool, even though I won't be able to change that. I also, if you notice, have symmetry on to start with, so that we can get the tonal qualities typical of the figure on both sides as we start. And as we progress, if you are planning on painting your model in ZBrush, then you will want to turn symmetry off and make sure that your figure is not symmetrical in that way. But if you are doing a game model, it's advisable sometimes, if you're not using ambient occlusion maps or things like that on your characters, which typically would not for games, characters that are moving, then you can texture share symmetrically by only mapping one half the body and sharing that. So let's proceed with painting. So the first thing we're going to do is select a material, which I've already done, but let me show you the material selections. These are the basic selections for materials in ZBrush, and I'm going to choose something that's typical of what I'm going to end up choosing for the model. And as I said, the materials, the shaders in ZBrush are not transferable, so they'll have to be recreated. I'm not going to worry too much about my selection other than trying to get something similar. So I've chosen this one called Skin 06, and now that I have that selected, I can come down here and just select a color that's similar to the shade that I want. So with that done, what I'm going to do is begin throwing different gradients on top of this fill. Now you can also fill your layer by selecting fill object or fill layer in the color drop down. Alright, so once we have a base coat on him, we're actually good to go back to our 3D program. But I would like to take a minute and talk just briefly about tonal color in the skin. If we look at the skin, we can see that there are many variations of tones, not just between different races, but also from the top of your arm to the bottom of your arm, the color of your knees as opposed to your shins. There are many gradients, variations of tones within the skin, and those all need to be taken into consideration if you're actually going to be painting your model in ZBrush. It's good to study life for your color values as well as your shades for the different areas of the body. If you have a creature with a reptile with a reptilian type of a skin, then go ahead and study some of the reptiles that you are using for your reference material and see how those skin textures along with the color changes on different areas of the body. Sometimes you'll have really dark or colorful areas on the back, and then you will have very pale light colors on the midsection or the underbody of the reptile. So you can see that I've done a little bit of painting on the face of this character so that I could talk to you about that a little bit. This is a character that's been out in the sun quite a bit, so he is sun torched. You can see that by the reddish tones on the head as well as the cheek areas. He's an older man. There's a bit of a tonal change where his beard may be heavy, some a little bit back near the jawbone area, so that you can see where his beard would fill in. Also, there are greener, sometimes real greenish tones around the insides of the eyes, in the areas where there's not a lot of fatty tissue under the skin. You'll find some differences in the color and texture around the areas that are weathered or wrinkled, so that you can have the different variations of the skin tone to make it more realistic if you're not using photography. Even if you do decide to paint your texture, I would highly recommend that you start with a base of photography and do a paint over. You can get a much more realistic texture that way. And realism is what we're all striving for. So using a base of photography is just a smart thing to do to get started. It will help you jumpstart your paint project, as well as giving you a real good indication of where those patterns and colors and textures need to be on the body. Alright, so enough of that. Let's go ahead and finish up here and export our geometry and our textures so that we can take those back into our 3D program and get our color and our normal maps, and talk about some of the other special maps that we would like to do with our characters. Alright, so I've painted up the texture a little bit on this guy. He's been out in the sun quite a bit, and you can see though the variances of color that help to tell that story. You got reddish tones on the top where the sun would normally hit here. You get a little bit more pale skin where the arms are down quite a bit, not getting the sun as much, and actually inside the muscle tissue where also there would be some self-shading on someone who's this muscular. So and also there would be less sun down in under here in these legs. So I've just hit the surface with the different tones, and then went over with a deep bronzy red to help tell that story. So now that I have these painted surfaces on here, I'm going to go ahead and begin to get set up for my export.